This is the master plan unfolding right before our eyes. The front office is actively pushing the organization to make strategic trades, and the reason why is becoming crystal clear. They want to regain valuable draft assets to position themselves for a future blockbuster trade that could alter the franchise's trajectory for years to come. Let me break down everything we're learning about this calculated approach to roster construction and long-term planning. The front office is pushing hard to make trades happen, and now the vision is becoming clear as day. They're setting up the organization for success both today and in the future, which is why they're aggressively pursuing trades. Because to acquire the elite players you want, you absolutely need draft assets to make compelling offers. Recent reporting has provided crucial insight into this strategic thinking. If the organization decides that another major move is necessary to break a championship drought that has stretched beyond 50 years, it gives them time to try accumulating the assets necessary to swing a deal for one of the top 5 players in the entire NBA. The reporting continues by stating that a hint of this interest could come soon, as league sources indicate the front office is hopeful of making deals to restock draft assets, which would likely be required if another franchise decides to move on from their superstar player. The organization wants to be in position to make a blockbuster trade once an elite player becomes available on the market. In order to make that type of transformative move, they're going to need substantial draft assets to include in any potential package. As of right now, they have roughly a year to build up those draft assets in order to be prepared when that opportunity presents itself. Further reporting continues by noting that the reality is this type of major trade is probably about a year away from actually happening, and that's actually a good thing for all parties involved. Nothing should be ruled out because this front office has already made 2 major moves as they seem set on an upward trajectory, swinging a significant trade for a star center a year ago and then making a coaching change days after last season ended in the conference finals. But pushing any major decision to the future gives other franchises a chance to evaluate their situations while also giving this organization a chance to see how the latest incarnation of their roster works with their new head coach. So we know trades will be made. We understand why trades will be made. And now we know approximately when trades will be made, likely in the summer of 2026. What we don't know yet is which specific players will be moved to make these deals and acquire that valuable draft compensation. Based on new reporting, it appears the organization will be making these trades at different strategic points rather than all at once. The reporting continues by noting this matches up with the organization's interest in moving one of their contracts to free up space to keep 2 veterans in training camp on non-guaranteed contracts, with multiple players competing for those final roster spots. They could move one of the young players and free up space under the second apron, but if they really want to get meaningful assets back in return, they would need to move a player of higher caliber. Something very interesting to mention here is that trades will likely be made at different strategic points throughout the timeline. Trades will need to be made before the season starts in order to add 2 veteran players to the roster. The most likely veterans to be added are a shooting guard and a backup point guard, and the most likely initial trade involves moving one of the young rookies. Why that particular player? Out of all the young players on the roster, this rookie has the most value to other teams around the league. And what does that mean? It means if they trade him, they can potentially get more draft picks back in return. Exactly what they want anyway. So that's why this particular player is likely the first trade candidate, representing the first move the organization is likely to make. But, as the reporting indicates, in order to acquire even more draft assets beyond that initial move, they're likely going to have to trade some players that many fans would prefer not to see moved right now. Moving a valuable rotation player who is in the middle of a bargain contract might not make sense for championship aspirations this immediate season, but it could make sense if the organization is more interested in accumulating draft capital than fitting another veteran into the back end of the roster right now. The veteran center fits into this category as well. Entering the final season of a 4-year deal with a significant cap hit, the front office rarely allows itself to lose a useful piece, without bringing something back in return, and they can't be blamed for wanting to see this player go through a full season healthy before committing to a contract extension. But with the current center depth, including the star acquisition, the backup big, and the young developing center, they have enough positional depth to potentially make up for moving the rebounding and defensive presence of the veteran center. So while any pursuit of an elite superstar is still in the future, hints of the organization's intentions could come very soon in terms of making strategic trade. The unfortunate reality that many fans don't want to discuss is that not every single player on this roster can be kept long-term. Many would love to keep certain players for the rest of their careers, but the honest truth is that each and every year, if these players have breakout seasons or continue improving, or are entering contract years and perform well, they're going to want to be paid adequately and fairly. And at this point, the organization can only pay so many players and can only retain so many pieces on the roster. At some point, whether it be right now, at the end of this season, in 2 years, or whenever, roster decisions will have to be made, because everyone cannot be paid and retained. But let me ease some immediate concerns here for this current season. The organization is likely going to trade one of the young players before the season starts. That's either going to be the French rookie or the young point guard. The French rookie is most likely the player who gets moved. After that initial move, there doesn't really need to be concern about major trades unless another team is performing so horribly this season that they become sellers at the deadline. If that happens, then come February, maybe there will be something significant to discuss. But if that's not the case, then it's likely any major blockbuster trade happens a year from now in the summer of 2026. And in a year, the organization will understand much more about this current roster construction. At that point, they'll understand exactly what pieces they need to add, what weaknesses need addressing, and what the path forward looks like. Recent reporting confirms that the valuable rotation guard has extremely high trade value around the league, with teams waiting for the organization to make him available in a serious way. That hasn't happened as of recently, and honestly, it probably won't happen at all this season. The new head coach loves this rotation guard, and under the new system, he's predicted to have a genuine breakout season. And if he does perform at that elevated level, next year when he's in a contract year, his trade value will probably be the highest it's been in his entire career. Maybe at that point, the organization will want to maximize his value in a trade. But right now, a trade involving this guard is not going to happen. The organization from top to bottom values him too much as a contributor to this year's championship push. Now, that brings us to the veteran center. The organization as a whole loves this player probably as much as they love the rotation guard. But here's the complicating fact: the contract situation, the money involved, the extension talk. The front office likely wants to keep this center for the long term, but the player also wants to be compensated fairly with another significant contract. And if he wants substantial money on his next deal, that might not be possible within the current salary cap constraint. But if you know how this front office operates, if they can't pay a player what he deserves, and they know they have no realistic chance of extending him to a fair deal, like we've seen in the past with other situations, if they can't retain someone, they're going to trade that player and move him for something in return. Another player, draft assets, whatever makes sense, but something is coming back, rather than losing the asset for nothing. Recent reporting essentially said the exact same thing when discussing the center and his future with the team. According to insiders, everybody they've spoken with in and around the organization has talked about how good this player has looked when healthy, and the excitement level about what a healthy version of this center means for the team's defensive identity and rebounding. What that means for extension conversations remains unclear, but history sometimes repeats itself, referring to how a similar situation played out previously with another star player. The organization to some extent wanted to keep that previous star on the team. However, they also understood that player wanted to get paid fairly. And when they determined it was something they wouldn't be able to offer or didn't want to offer given other priorities, they made the trade anyway because they knew there was not going to be any realistic chance of retaining that player long-term, so they made what they viewed as the only logical decision and traded him before losing him for nothing. If the same situation develops with the veteran center, the same type of decision will likely happen there too, resulting in a trade before losing the asset. Many fans don't want that to happen, but the organization has to make difficult roster decisions. We are operating under a new collective bargaining agreement, and that means making roster decisions that affect the salary cap in complex ways. Because of these restrictions, not everybody can be kept, and not everybody can be paid what they deserve. Some difficult sacrifices have to be made if the goal is keeping the core roster competitive and intact for sustained championship contention. And if you ever wonder why the organization is looking to make strategic trades, it's because the championship odds that show this team as one of the favorites to win it all. Those are the types of odds that the front office wants to maintain season after season after season. Current championship odds have this team in strong position as legitimate title contenders, and maintaining that level of competitiveness year after year requires difficult decisions and forward-thinking asset management. Whether the organization ultimately pulls the trigger on a future blockbuster trade for an elite superstar or not, they clearly want to give themselves the opportunity and flexibility to pursue that option when and if it becomes available. This is the master plan in action, and without a doubt, it's becoming clear and understandable now. The vision is crystallizing. Make different strategic trades at different points in time, build up the draft asset stockpile, and then, if there's a need to make a major blockbuster move, have everything necessary at that point to pull the trigger, make that trade happen, and keep this team competitive for many years to come. There's trust in this front office and confidence in everything they're doing now and will do in the future to maintain championship-level competitiveness.